Hey guys, it's Payne. I'm really excited to introduce a brand new show to Bet the Board that combines sports and alternative investing, the very first of its kind. Sports betting and collectibles converging is inevitable. Let me tell you why. Sports cards and memorabilia are another way to get money into the market and do it without limit restrictions or the substantial hold you're accustomed to with sports betting. Whether you collected cards as a kid and are looking to get back into the hobby, this podcast is for you. If you've been collecting cards for years, this podcast will make you think and operate more efficiently. Are you in real estate? The parallels to investing in sports cards and memorabilia are uncanny. You're on Wall Street. Well, listen close. The best sports cards have outperformed the S&P 500 by 6x since 2013. And during the 2008 market crash, sports cards held up better than the S&P 500. Bet the Board, in conjunction with PWCC, presents CardBoard Chat, an entertaining, sophisticated, and informative podcast that combines sports, analytics, betting, cards, and memorabilia. Without further ado, this is CardBoard Chat with Jesse Craig, a leading figure in the collectible space, and me, Payne. We talked a little bit this weekend, and I saw what you sent over. I was a little surprised by this, but it is the biggest headline in sports, so I think it's smart to talk about. It was a good decision. Messi to enter Miami. What are your take on that?
I mean, it's incredible. I know that he's coming in the latter part of his career, and he's not the same Messi he once was. He's still incredible, but to have a draw like that for the MLS, which has been clawing its way slowly to becoming a relevant sporting league here in the United States, and sorry for any MLS fans, but it's just true. It's not the NBA, it's not the NFL, it's not the MLB, it's not the NHL, and soccer is not what it is in the United States as it is internationally. But anybody who watches the MLS, and most Americans know who Messi is, and they know that he's going to go down as the greatest soccer player of all time. And so I think it's an incredible amount of exposure for the MLS and the soccer community here in the States. You talk about the Messi effect. I mean, they had a their cheapest ticket they were selling for Inter Milan was Inter Miami was about $29, and that's up 20x now. It's like $500 and some odd dollars, almost $600 for the cheapest ticket to a game to watch Messi play next season. And their Instagram followers for the club went up from 1 million to over 6 million followers basically overnight with the news of the Messi acquisition. I mean, it's a massive thing for soccer in the United States. And what's crazy about the trading card industry is that the majority of the sales that you see and the attention that we get is within the United States. And getting Messi over here in the MLS where people can see him in person, it can only help the soccer market in general for trading cards.
That's interesting. So the vast majority of soccer sales that you guys have through PWCC are mostly domestic.
Yep.
Interesting. We're starting to get this ramped up. To your point, like I've kind of followed the MLS for a while. So when I was playing soccer as a kid, I was actually a ball boy for the Miami Fusion. That's what they were called at the time. Diego Serna, and that was kind of their lead horse at the time. And now I'm not really big into soccer. I won't pretend to be a soccer card investor, never purchased one. Have my eye on one specific one, but nothing imminent there. I won't disagree with your sentiment, and it's interesting because, we've kind of crowned Messi over the last 8 months as the best player in the world ever, right? Like he's the GOAT. 8 months ago, the conversation was him or Ronaldo, and then he gets the World Cup there for Argentina. And even though he's 35, I think there's a lot of juice left in the tank. But I'm interested to see what the soccer market looks like. The MLS is growing. I think that's very evident. And, pre-Beckham, they were doing and this is from my TV guy that I spoke with, which is a really interesting conversation, but pre-Beckham days, they were doing about $8 million annually in TV rights, and now their deal with Apple TV is about $250 million. So you're watching this sport grow, but I agree with your assessment just because I know this situation from a business perspective, and we're watching Messi already move the needle. You mentioned the 6 million new Instagram followers. Miami's team merch sales up nearly 5,000%, and Fanatics, might as well plug them now.
Yeah,
we can do that.
That's
right?
it.
They claim
on-demand jersey. Yep.
Yeah, they claim that Inter Miami is the third best-selling team across every single sport they sell right now. So that's really interesting. But you're starting to hear a lot of the financial experts talk about what Messi could make, what he means to the league, what he means to streaming. I mean, PSG last year sold more than $130 million in Messi jerseys. Barcelona, when he was with them.
Just Messi?
Just Messi last year, right? $130 million in Messi jerseys. And to put that in perspective, Inter Miami's net revenue for the entire season, everything, was just $50 million as an entire club. So what we're seeing is, with Apple TV, they're going to be doing a rev share as well with Messi. Since they have the MLS rights. There's going to be a lump sum on top of that for a 4-part Apple TV documentary. I couldn't say anything, but the day after Todd's wedding, I'm sitting down with an Apple TV producer in the sports book watching Kings Warriors Game 6, and he told me, hey, this is coming, right? This is going to happen. We're just, dotting I's and crossing T's. But this is effectively the Beckham blueprint. And who better to kind of pitch that and sell that to Messi
than the man himself?
Right. I mean, a lot of people were at the time shitting on Beckham for making that move. But if you look at what he did, he accumulated over $250 million in those 5 years playing in the MLS. But that basically afforded him the luxury because in his contract, he was able to purchase Inter Miami. In that contract was you could purchase the next team that we are going to develop. It's going to cost you a flat fee of $25 million. The next expansion team's yours. And, pre-Messi value was $600 million. So, now post-Messi, they're claiming it's about $1 billion. So I think, the impact Messi's having on business, this is sure to have an impact on his cards, especially, it becomes twofold as we inch closer to the 2026 World Cup on domestic soil.
Yeah, and credit to Beckham because he really is the staple child for the MLS, and really the reason I think the MLS got put on the map is because of what he did. And then to your point, to be able to already have the blueprint dialed in and just to kind of tweak it and add on to it for Messi in the latter part of his career, I mean, what a great way to add $400 million to your valuation.
It becomes much easier, right, when you're the guy who's convincing you has done it and he's laid it out for you. And so this is going to be interesting. It's certainly going to attract more people to the sport. So a positive for Messi cards, I would assume.
And anytime you have a chance to watch the greatest of all time do something, I mean, like for you, it's in your backyard now. Like you have to go to a game. You have to be able to go see Messi in person once in your life. And that's kind of, I think, the sentiment here in the States and why ticket values went up 20x. We now all have a realistic opportunity in the United States to go to a game and watch the greatest to ever do it while he's still playing. If we could turn back the clock and do that with Jordan, right? Like you would 100% do it. You'd spend way more than anyone would imagine to do that and actually be there for that. So to be able to go see Messi in person now in the United States is just incredible.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we don't know his exact start date yet, right? His debut. I think there's a lot of people speculating and some ticket prices are starting to go up and down. And I think people are trying to kind of guess when his debut is going to be. Is this accurate when you look at some of these ticket pricings?
Yep, that's correct.
So that'll be interesting on the premium of the debut ticket. We know that that's a market in and of itself now that we've seen grow really exponentially over the last 24 to 36 months is debut tickets. I know a gentleman, and it'll be a guy that we talk about here pretty soon, but I know Ellie De La Cruz's debut for the Cincinnati Reds was recently. Had a buddy purchased 100 tickets, and he's been doing quite well selling those debut tickets.
I can imagine.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. It's time, folks. That's right. We're going to discuss undervalued and overvalued cards, or maybe even some memorabilia assets, potentially some players. Is it time to buy, sell, or hold on to these assets or players? We'll give you some opinions and back it up.
No reason to wait, but I'm going to let you go first. It's time to talk about a couple cards this week, and I threw a little wrench in the plans. We've been talking a lot about undervalued cards. I'm going to let you lead off there, but as a little tease, I have an overvalued one this week, but I will let you lead the way. Give us your undervalued play of the week. I really like it.
Yeah, so first of all, I was surprised to see, and I thought we turned this into the undervalued segment, but apparently not. You're going against the grain this week, which I like. I like switching it up a little bit.
It was meant to be this.
It was time. Hey, it's time, and it was time.
Yes.
Yeah, my card for the week is a 97 Skybox Premium Golden Touch Michael Jordan die cut, and I'm going to focus more on this card in gem mint quality, but this card itself is one of my favorite inserts from the 90s. It's a gorgeous card. It's got a gold look to it. And I've always really loved die cuts in general and thought that they don't get the love they deserve. I think I've talked about this on the pod before. Because the card is black bordered, it's very condition sensitive. And then the fact that it's die cut as well creates more interesting, edges and curves and whatnot for damage to occur. The grading statistics around this card are really interesting. It's not serial numbered, but there's only been 140 examples graded by Beckett, and 4 of those have received a 9.5 designation. But all 4 of them have 1.9 subgrade. So there's no quad 9.5 or higher Beckett 9.5s that exist of this card out of 140 examples. PSA has graded 85 copies. There are 10 PSA 10s. But the majority of the cards that are graded are between 7s and 9s. And, I bet you that some of those PSA 10s, if we regraded them today, would not be PSA 10s again. It's something that's not really talked about a ton in the space. And not that grading standards have changed, but they have evolved, right, over time. And I think this is something that grading companies know. They're handing you a larger payday if they give you a higher grade, and it's also a little bit of pop control that's not talked about a lot. But these are my personal assumptions. So the reality is a 10 that was graded 15 years ago might not grade a 10 today if all things are equal. So
get it off your chest.
Yeah, I'm getting it off my chest
along the way.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Save space.
Yeah. So this card is. You can buy, or you can't buy. If you wanted to buy a PSA 10 copy, they're very hard to find, right? I mean, there's only 10 that exist, and Beckett 9.5, I don't believe we've seen a Beckett 9.5 example sell in years. So it's a really hard card to find, and the last PSA 10 of this card to sell at auction was back in June of last year, so almost a year ago, and it sold for in the 30s. But the card right now Card Ladder has valued at $23,000. I just think that's too inexpensive for this condition sensitive of a card that's that hard to find. SGC has only graded a handful of copies of this card as well, so it's just a really hard card to find. Print run might only be 250, 300 copies, and just a gorgeous piece.
I completely agree. Now, it's one that if you just kind of search, best Jordan inserts on Google, this is one that will pop up. Not necessarily everyone's belief, but it seems to always be in the conversation. These were inserted into Series 2 packs. They claim the odds of pulling any of the 15 players from the set is 1 in 360. So theoretically, if you wanted to pull a pack fresh Golden Touch Jordan, on average, it would take you about 5,400 packs. The card's beautiful. It's got this satin gold embossed finish. The player set list is loaded, right? Kobe, Iverson, Shaq, Garnett. I don't get it But my feeling is, and why I completely agree with you, and maybe even would double down on what you're saying, is people have gravitated so much towards serial numbered inserts from the 90s that the ones without serial numbers have dipped to a point where it's like, hey, like what's going on here?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
There's a lot of value. I mean, you guys just recently sold a PSA 9 in the 3K range. Right. And I mean, there's just 26 of those in PSA 9, right? So, I mean, even that seems like great value. So, completely agree with your pick this week. Where I'm going, and this is, a little different. When we designed this segment, this was supposed to be undervalued, overvalued, right? A little bit of both mixed in, but we haven't had an overvalued pick on the podcast in a while because it feels like, the sports card market could be at the relative floor. But I managed to find one. I have a couple buddies that listen to the show. They are diehard Reds fans who won't like this. But basically, every time Elly De La Cruz gets a walk or runs very fast from first to second, right? They're passing the Jergens lotion back and forth.
Everyone
via
is
text
losing
group.
their mind.
Yes. So it was really easy to find my overvalued selection. And listen, I like Elly De La Cruz, right? Like, great talent. He's 6'5". He runs like a gazelle. He's got pop in his bat. And it's good that he can start compiling stats early because he got the call up at age 21. And that's kind of what you're looking for. So you love all that. But this is more about the other factors, right? He's playing third base, so it's a non-premium position. Mm-hmm. As much as I enjoy the city of Cincinnati in the summer, it's the 25th largest Major League Baseball market. The bigger thing for me is where he's selling right now. So I've been monitoring this for about a week. Elly's first Bowman rookie auto sales. And his base PSA 10 just sold for nearly 80% of Juan Soto's within the last 72 hours. And,
Jesus.
Juan Soto's a guy, right? Over 135 home runs. He's 24. He's on pace for milestones analytically. Like, OBP this year, again, 422. He's on his way to, a triple-digit WAR career. Soto has the ring. So I just feel like this is a good time to sell Elly about a week after the call-up, and he's starting red hot. And listen, if he turns into like the 0.1% baseball player, this won't be a good pick. But historically, right, I'm on the right side here, and I think this is probably a very good time to sell your Elly De La Cruz because he's a little bit overvalued.
Yeah, this is the proverbial hype train, right? He is so hyped up, and people have been waiting for this guy to make his debut. Now that he's done it, what can he sustain this hot start that he's had, right? He's hitting about 350. He hit a monster home run. He's got a handful of ribbies through 6 games. OBP's great. But can that be maintained? And that's TBD. So to your point, it is such a risk to hang on to his assets and let him ride out. What can he really turn into to that 0.01% that you're talking about? Is it possible? And for his assets to be selling near Soto numbers is a little concerning. It's like that, like you mentioned, that's a guy that's done it.
And his green refractor just sold for about 45% of Ohtani.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah. Now, he's young, which he has going for him, right? Yep. Ohtani's older, and that's always been the knock on Ohtani, and why I don't think Ohtani's red doesn't sell for over $1 million is because of his age. If Ohtani was 24 or 23, it might be a different, at this point in his career, it might be a different story. But yeah, this is a great overvalued pick. Timing's perfect. I think the guy is going to be an absolute stud, but it's just so early to be able to run that risk and that gamble.
Pick a number, any number, whatever it may be. We got a number inside, but we want a magic number. All right, this is where we're gonna pick a few big cards that enter in an auction over the next couple of days, and we're gonna try and guess how much they sell for in advance. Throw out a number. We got one too.
Now we get to the part of the show where we get to gamble a little bit here, and it's magic number time. I like your choices this week. We get a little vintage hockey. Who would have thought Steve Novak would have made his debut onto the CardBoard chat? But here we are. And then we get the GOAT, Michael Jordan, but not the sport everyone deems him the GOAT in. So I like your choices this week. We will start with vintage hockey. The Vegas Knights have the potential to close the Panthers out and win their first Stanley Cup. The 1951 Parkhurst Gordie Howe rookie, an SGC4 grade. It does come with the PWCC A designation for eye appeal. One of the most important hockey cards ever. And, talk to us a little bit about this one. I'll let you tee it up first, give your valuation, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we don't talk about hockey a lot. The fact that the Stanley Cup, it's winding down and it's going to be done here fairly soon. Figure we should throw a hockey card out there. So, Gordie Howe, everyone knows who Wayne Gretzky is, but I don't think unless you're, a big hockey fan, not everyone knows who Gordie Howe is, and most people don't know that Gordie Howe actually has a serious argument to be the GOAT for hockey, and some people do consider him the GOAT. It's not a LeBron and Jordan conversation. It's like true. He's really should be the greatest of all time for hockey. And this set in itself is such an iconic set in the world of hockey. It's probably the most important set that exists for hockey in general. It's the 51 Parkers. There's a lot of really important rookie cards in this set. This card specifically is a very nicely centered SGC4 with the PWCC eye appeal sticker. Right now, PSA 4's recent sale was about $8K, and PSA sells for a premium typically over SGC. But with the eye appeal sticker, I've got this coming in a little bit higher than the last PSA sale because of that. So I actually have this one selling for $8,437.
Trading cards and memorabilia have seen incredible growth as an alternative investment. The company leading the growth? PWCC Marketplace. PWCC Marketplace runs the largest weekly auction of authenticated sports cards, Pokemon cards, comic books, video games, and memorabilia in the world. PWCC Marketplace also has more than 65,000 items listed in their fixed price marketplace that you can make an offer on right now. Head over to pwccmarketplace.com and see why they're the best option for buying and selling trading cards, memorabilia, and all of your collectibles.
That's actually a really good pick there. I'm surprised you didn't go bullseye on the PWCC pricing at $8,400. I think you're really in the ballpark, and we talk about this a lot with vintage cards. The delta isn't going to be that large, but I think you hit this perfectly in that you could make a great case that Gordie Howe is the hockey GOAT. And I think what's interesting is not only is this one of the most important hockey cards ever, it's from one of the most important sets for hockey ever, and relative to the iconic early 50s baseball cards, the 51 Parkhurst Gordie Howe, just the population isn't there. I went and dug into this card a little bit because it was on my buy list for a while, but PSA is graded less than 640 copies ever as we record this, all grades. SGC less than 160 copies. So again, playing that comp game relative to vintage baseball in the early 50s, there's just no population here.
Sure.
And you mentioned that April sale, the PSA 4, roughly 8,700. SGC doesn't sell as much, to your point, but you at least have that starting baseline. I thought you were going to come in here swinging heavy. I'm going to come in below you here at 8,100 on the dot. I think this is going to be somewhere. I think that the delta's small here. I think this is going to land anywhere from like 7,800 to 9,000. I think that the delta's that small, the range is that small. So I'm going to be a little bit below you here at 8,100.
Okay.
The next one here, I would say not only is it the toughest card of the week, I think this is the most difficult in a long time.
Yeah.
One of one.
Yeah.
Exquisite. Steve Novak. Conveniently placed as the second card this week, Mr. Jesse Craig. I'm going to go first and make a fool out of myself. But what was the thought process in choosing this card? We gotta grow you a little bit here.
I'll give you the
You're
thought
already
process.
stuttering here. Don't fold under
no,
questioning.
this was a tough one to price. I was kind of looking through and I wanted to find a tough one. Obviously, you usually go first, second, so I threw it in there on the second pick. But I also think that Tracy McGrady's cards are criminally underpriced. That's a guy that could be in the undervalued section as well for what he did in the NBA and how talented he was. And you'd hear about other NBA greats talking about how good Tracy McGrady was. I just don't think his cards get the love that they deserve. And you throw Steve Novak on here, and all hell breaks loose.
I got to tell you, I was that guy in high school that was going to die on the hill that Tracy McGrady was better than Kobe Bryant. And obviously, years later, I realized that wasn't the case. But McGrady is criminally undervalued. So, when you think about this card, right, you'll be lucky to find a singular comp on something like this. But what we know is there's been a lot of these cards selling recently. You guys have been moving them, I'm guessing, for one collector. There was an 06 Baron Davis Jason Capono that sold for $2,100 about 2 weeks ago. Novak and Capono probably on the same scale. McGrady sells for more than B. Diddy. Then you have a Vince Carter Antoine Jameson sell for $7,300. Jameson clearly better than Novak. Vince Carter generally sells for more than McGrady. So that's the range, right? Wide range, above to, I think, below $7,300. I started to dig into some data, right? In total, from 2003 to 2007, according to Beckett, McGrady has just 13 logo mans that are, I would say, premium brands, right? Topps, SP, Ultimate Collection, Exquisite. Many of those McGrady logo mans feature Yao Ming, who has a large global brand and I think causes some of those logo mans to sell even in today's market, go for 40. In 05, there was the Exquisite logo man. It's McGrady. He's paired with LeBron. And you have, Vince Carter and McGrady on one. There's a triple logo man with other players. I think what's going to happen here potentially, this has really started slow, by the way, out of the gates.
Yeah, it did.
But I think this could go for a touch higher than perception, because if you're a McGrady super collector that's on a budget, your one chance to own an affordable logo man might be because Steve Novak helps depreciate the price, right?
Yep.
So that means, there could be an extra bidder or two, relatively speaking, that are just, they're going for it. So I'm going to nestle in right kind of in the middle here at 4,560 on the Novak McGrady dual logo man.
That's a good number. That's a good
You like
number.
that one?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the Baron Davis and Jason Capono sale, because that's one that I use as a reference point. And then the Al Jefferson and Richard Jefferson, those are ones that I looked at as well. And this is a very hard one to price. I'm gonna do a little bit. I was right around you. I was at 4,650, so we're right by each other.
Yeah.
So
play the Price is Right.
It's the Price is Right game, really, at this point.
4,650. I'm dyslexic, so let me write that down.
Yeah.
650. Okay.
Well, we got it recorded too, so if you need to reference it.
That's a good point there, sir. Very smart.
It is a good point.
You learn something after 25 episodes.
Finally, good Lord. On card auto, right? Dual logo man. These are the chase cards out of all the Exquisite products. It is a really neat card, and Steve Novak is an absolute nobody in the grand scheme of things. So it's going to be interesting to see, to your point, if some Tracy McGrady collectors go, well, I can get a McGrady logo man, even though Novak's on there at a discount. Got to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that might be your only chance to get one, in this range, So sometimes that'll create a little bit higher expectations. The next one here, third and final, ending it with the GOAT. This is actually interesting because I'm quite familiar with this set, being a Jeter guy, because it falls into his rookie range. We're looking at the 1994 SP Hollowview Red die cut, Michael Jordan rookie, PSA 10 Gem Mint, in line with your die cut love this episode. This is actually a baseball card, and boy, is it beautiful. Talk to us a little bit about this one.
I love this card. I've always loved this set in general. I love the die cut nature of it. Like I always talk about, Jordan's got his White Sox gear on, playing baseball, making, kind of a diving catch on the back of the card. It's just a really neat card, and, it's a glimpse into the greatness of Michael Jordan too. I mean, the guy took a year off of basketball to pursue baseball in the middle of his career. and still went down as the greatest of all time. Comes back and wins 3 championships after it. Like, give me a break, right? Who the hell else can do that? So damn the torpedoes. I'm gonna go play professional baseball. You gotta love that mentality.
Yep.
And this card, there's 51 PSA 10s that exist of this card. It only sells, call it a handful of times every single year. And I just really do love this card. And if I could bid on this card, this is a card I really should own. I should put it on my buy list. But I've got this card going for $3,825.
I like it. So this is interesting. I actually just made a recent baseball purchase of Michael Jordan in your premier auction. It was the 06.
Oh, you sent me a picture of that.
I sent you a picture of that. Yeah, it's a dual on-card auto of Jordan and Jeter. Absolutely love that. And the baseball Jordans are holding really strong right now. Obviously, we're still in baseball season. When you look at this card, it is stunning, to your point. You have the action shot coming in, tracking down a fly ball, mouth open. And this set, 1994 SB HoloView, was 38 cards in total. They're basically this 3D hologram on the bottom where you have, the main action shot that looks like a normal card, but behind it, there's this hologram technology. And, based upon how you hold the card, the light that it's in, it shows multiple images. Within that, there's rare die cuts, which this is. They're called Special FX Parallels. This is the red version that we're talking about here with Michael Jordan. Now, it isn't serial numbered, but it was short printed to an estimated 700 copies. To your point, 51 PSA 10s. We had a semi-recent comp about 6 weeks ago for $3,700. So I love that you're showing confidence. My ceiling price here is $3,600 on this one. I think, it's the middle of June. You've kind of said it a couple times over the last, couple weeks. We're kind of in this dead period here. NHL wrapping up. NBA wrapping up, football not quite here yet. This is a little bit of a lull in the market when you kind of look at the calendar year annually. So I'm going to be in a little bit under you at 3,600. This is an interesting week. My gut says if we went back through 26 shows, the dichotomy between all of our guesses hasn't been this small. But it's kind of what you're looking at with cards like this. They're a little bit lower priced. You have vintage thrown in there. So we're very close to each other this week. All three.
We are. This might be the closest week we've had. It's more of an over-under type of week.
Let's see who wins this. The next one here that we're going to be talking about, also Michael Jordan. Just a touch more money, though.
Damn, that's a ghost. We're going to highlight a card that hasn't sold in more than a year right now, or is serial numbered to less than 100 copies produced. We're going to talk about why this card is significant, maybe in terms of hobbies or language or just the overall rarity of it all, and why it's considered a ghost.
The ghost this week, a one-of-one exquisite triple logo man with Michael Jordan, his son LeBron, and Carmelo Anthony. Why is this card so important, Jesse? Talk to us a little bit about 04 exquisite triple logo mans. They've obviously been popping up a little bit more recently than they had, 5 years ago. There was the Puerto Rico collection that surfaced. Yep. Everyone's raving about the triple logo man. So they've been a little bit more prevalent over the last 24 months than what we had seen, the prior 24.
Yeah, you got one guy in Puerto Rico that hoarded a lot of these, so they've kind of slowly leaked their way out over the last handful of years. But this card, from my understanding, that I could find, is never publicly sold. This was acquired privately from the Puerto Rico collection, and it is really one of the chase cards for all of Exquisite. In 2004, it was the first year that they did triple logo man. They didn't do it in 2003. And so this is and I believe, in my opinion, it is the best design of all the triple logo man designs. Agreed. And this is one of LeBron's best triple logo men that exist outside of, you swap Kobe for Carmelo Anthony. But this is one of the best ones. You got 2 guys from the same draft class. There's, second year card, throw Jordan on there. It's just an unbelievable product. This card's sitting at about $132,000 right now if you include the buyer's premium. It's a monster piece. These are all game used. What I really do love is you can kind of see like the stitching on the Melo and the LeBron logo men are identical, right? Because they're both from jerseys of the same year. And then you look at Jordan's, and Jordan's stitching is just a little bit more vintage, a little bit older. I love that with logo man cards when they pair the new school with the old school, the variances that you can see. And on the new logo men cards, you have the more synthetic look. Now you're seeing the 75th anniversary with the diamond on it. If you go back in time, I think it was Sam Nubani recently that hit the Charles Barkley with the gold NBA with the logo man, which is from the 50th anniversary year in 96. So just these logo man cards are the chase cards for any product you're in when buying basketball cards. They're beautiful. And to get 3 guys like this on a card is incredible. And personally, I'd never liked Melo that much. I had a buddy who was a huge Melo fan. That's part of the reason why, we had this rival. I was a Laker fan and he was anybody but Laker fan. And he loved Carmelo Anthony, so I always hated Carmelo. But then I fell in love with Carmelo later in his career and really found an appreciation for him, the way he handled it, coming off the bench, just being a contributor when they needed him. So I'm actually appreciative of Melo and really do respect the guy. And this is just an amazing piece, one that, you might not ever see again after it sells in this auction. So this is your chance.
I think what's interesting about this conversation is nobody on planet Earth really belongs in the same conversation as Michael Jordan and LeBron, right? So the third guy here was always going to be a little bit of an afterthought, I guess, unless it was Kobe, right? He's got this cult-like following. Carmelo is obviously the perceived downside from many about this card, and I'm opposite, right? I kind of view Carmelo differently because I'm a Syracuse basketball guy, and he brought a championship to Syracuse for Jim Boeheim as a freshman. I'm a Knick fan, but there's clear correlation as to why Carmelo's on this card. And many times you look at some of these mid-2000s exquisite cards, even if they're in baseball, because that's something I'm a little bit more familiar with, and you have Jeter and Griffey, and then all of a sudden B.J. Upton's on the card, and you're like scratching your head, like, how did B.J. Upton get included here?
Yeah.
So I'm not doing that with this card because you hit it perfectly. Carmelo's part of LeBron's 2003 rookie class that's one of the best of all time. And the other correlation is Carmelo's one of the few Jordan brand ambassadors. Michael Jordan thought that much of him as a player, loved his game that much that he wanted him to be one of his lead ambassadors. So Melo has correlation to both LeBron and MJ. He fits. And to me, when you play in the biggest city in the world, there's going to be far more negative opinions about you than playing in a small market. And I think that's where some of the negativity surrounding Melo comes from, because there isn't a player on the top 10 all-time NBA scoring list that gets shit on more than Melo.
That's true. Yep. Very true. It's a fantastic piece. Go ahead.
When does this card end?
This card ends next Thursday. It just went live last Thursday, so they run for 2 weeks.
Yep, so monkey math on that is Thursday, June 22nd.
Correct. That would be accurate. Are you looking at a calendar? Is that how you figured that out?
I pulled that up, yes. Every day in my world is the same as a sports bettor. So you just you hope to wake up and it becomes the same day. You just got to check on and make sure. Okay, so June 22nd, this ends at pwccmarketplace.com. Again, check it out. It is just a great card.
So we doing this or are we doing that? You tell me and we'll tell you. We're going to compare 2 cards right now with similar value that are completely different. Let me give you an example. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you have a vintage Mickey Mantle baseball card worth $30,000. But you also have a modern day Joe Burrow rookie card worth $30,000. Which one would you rather have and why? You tell us. We're going to tell you right now.
2 great cards in this or that for episode 26. I will tell you, I thought I was going to go in a different direction when you initially sent this, but you start digging, doing some reconnaissance, and this was another one that I felt was pretty easy for me. But I will let you jump into the batter's box first here. The two cards that we are going to be comparing and picking. The first is a 2009 Topps Gold Stephen Curry rookie, serial numbered out of 2009 in BGS 95 gem mint condition. And the second, a baseball legend, Willie Mays. It's his 1969 Topps in PSA mint 9 condition. It comes with PWCC's eye appeal designation of an S, which puts it in the top 5% of all 1969 Topps Willie Mays PSA 9s. Talk to us about both these cards, Jesse. Give us a little scoop on each and where your mind takes you on which is your pick this week.
I'm curious if we're in the same boat. The way you described your thought process on this is basically what I went through as well. So I'm going to be curious to hear yours. Starting with the Curry, gorgeous card. This card sold for $8,700 last week, and it is a very condition-sensitive card. The back of this card, it's numbered at 2009, the year he was drafted, but it's a black border card. So again, these black border cards, they chip because of the ink that was used for them, and it usually leads to corners and edges downgrading from a numerical perspective. So it can really affect the value of the asset. But this card is really, really tough. I mean, there's only 4 gem mint copies ever graded by BGS, and there are 20 PSA 10s, which I actually find interesting. That variance is a little bit more extreme than even the Golden Touch Jordan that we talked about earlier in the pod. But once again, I bet those you regrade those 20 PSA 10s and they don't all come back PSA 10s today. So just a really, really pretty card. I love its babyface Curry. He's got the same, and it's the same image that was on his Topps Chrome, his Topps Chrome Refractor. They use that same image for all of them, and it's really an iconic, image for a lot of his blue chip cards as a rookie. The second card, the 69 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 9 with a PWCC S sticker. So that's the top 5% from an eye appeal perspective. This card also sold on the nose for $8,700 a week ago. This is a really hard card to find in high grade. There's been over 3,800 of these cards graded by PSA. There's only 87 9s and 6 PSA 10s. I mean, that is crazy discrepancy and shows you how condition sensitive these things are. The paper stock they used made it really hard to have sharp corners, and then the centering on these cards is the most difficult. Maybe one of the most difficult issues for centering in any year for trading cards. This is Reggie Jackson's rookie year. It's just a brutal year to find the cards dead nut centered. And this card specifically to me looks like a 10. I don't kind of understand why it's not a 10. This could be a little political. Maybe they know they're handing somebody a paycheck if they give it a PSA 10. But this is, it might even be nicer than some of the PSA 10s that exist. I mean, that's actually possible. So at the worst, I'd imagine this is maybe the 7th best copy in the world for this. Probably the nicest PSA 9 in existence. I don't know how it could get any nicer than this without being a 10. And, Willie goes down as one of the top 3 greatest to ever play the game. Curry's never going to be in that conversation. He is the greatest shooter of all time and changed the way the game is played today. But really looking at how difficult this 69 Topps Willie Mays card is from a grading perspective, and the fact that I believe that this card should be a PSA 10, I'm going to go with the Willie Mays.
Interesting. So I guess the way I initially approached this, I threw you off. I threw you the old 12-6 curveball.
Oh.
I love Willie Mays, and we've talked about it a few times now. Relative to Ruth and Mantle, Mays is wildly undervalued. But he has 22 different base Topps playing day cards, right? Just the main base. I'm not sure 1969 has a ton of relevance compared to some of his others. And statistically, 69 was May's worst season in his 30s. by far. Now, yes, right, this is graded mint, extremely difficult to achieve. You outlined some of the difficulties with that 69 set, specifically centering in the card stock, but there's 87 PSA 9s. There's 2 handfuls of PSA 10s. SGC has a couple 9s. I just think when we're comparing 2 Topps cards, both condition sensitive, which Steph Curry's is, one is serial numbered, the other is not. One is a rookie, the other is, his 18th year in the league or whatever. That becomes the glaring differentiator for me. I'm almost never going modern in these debates, and that's probably why it threw you off a little bit, but this one feels clear to me. I'd rather have Steph Curry's Topps Gold rookie, which is, highly sensitive to chipping. We know exactly how many were produced. It's gem mint, and I think the way Steph Curry changed the game, he'll have historical relevance, right? Like, could be wrong, but that's my vibe right now. If you were to ask me in 30 years, will Steph Curry be remembered? And I think so because of the way he changed the game. And literally like 2 months ago, the conversation is if he beats the Lakers and LeBron and they go on to win another championship, does he surpass LeBron as the best player of this era? And now all of a sudden, that conversation's waned a little bit because that didn't end up transpiring. But I just think when you look at, the conversation he's in, I think he's number 2 in this era. I don't think there's a debate about that. I mean, greatest shooter ever and changed the way the game's played. One thing that's interesting, though, and maybe it's a little left field, you mentioned that there were 10 PSA 10s. And, we've kind of hinted at the political nature.
There's 20
PSA 10s, right? We've talked a little bit about the political nature of grading and, I think what's really interesting with some of these modern day cards, it's very clear PSA grades modern a little bit easier. So when you're submitting this card in 2009 and 2010, it's going to be graded a little bit easier. And then all of a sudden 14 years pass. Okay? And Steph Curry is one of the best ever. And the card skyrockets. You're thinking to yourself, like, this would never be a 10 now. And you're 100% correct in that. But it's interesting that game, that dichotomy that it's going to cause in pricing down the line because they graded the modern card a little bit easier in the moment. Something that would have never happened, with a 1969 Topps Willie Mays, right?
Sure.
So it feels like the grade is certainly to your point and why you made the pick. Like the PSA 9 is well earned and probably undergraded. And because go ahead.
Can I add one more wrinkle to this?
Yes.
In the back of my mind as well, and I want to preface this by saying I've got a lot of guys at BGS I love, but there's still an unknown with what they're going to do with their grading scale. This gem mint copy could turn into a mint plus copy in the foreseeable future via Beckett. That is possible, right? Like they announced their grading scale changed just over 2 months ago at the Mint, rolled it back because of public scrutiny.
That's not why they claimed.
And they have not come back with a clear-cut future for the grading scale. And so that to me, I'm looking at any Beckett 9.5s that are min gems, right? They're 3 9.5s and a 9, and I'm going, God, is this gonna be a gem mint copy via Beckett's grading scale in the future? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. So that uncertainty as well weighs on me a little bit.
I'm gonna get you in trouble, and I'm an easy target, so you can just blame me here. But I was having a conversation with someone today about a lot of serial numbered cards from the 90s and the early to mid 2000s that are in like BGS 8.5s and BGS 9s, and it doesn't make sense to kind of crack those out, clean them up, send them to PSA, and come back with PSA 8s and 9s, and because we are unsure on Beckett's grading scale, we're unsure on what the future holds for them in general, because they've clearly in the market they've lost some luster, they've lost some steam. At what point is Fanatics just going to buy these guys and just help them out?
I was wondering where the hell you were going with that.
It was a long twisting turn, but eventually we made it home there. Like that would be the greatest thing for their brand ever.
Yeah, I have zero information about anything regarding Fanatics and a grading company, so I can't really comment on that. I don't know. I think that Beckett just got new leadership, new CEO who's got a strong strong roots in the space. Let's hope that we can bring them back to the promised land. But they're a very important brand in our space, and I wish them nothing but success. I hope they do fantastic and can be a great rival for PSA because it's good for everybody.
Yeah, competition is good for the consumer.
Just like we talk about even with marketplaces, with us, with collectors, whoever it may be, there's competition is good. It drives down pricing. It creates better products, and let's just hope that happens from Beckett's perspective.
We should end there, but I'm going to give you the floor. Talk to us about anything going on at PWCC.
Let's see. We've got a vintage only. You'll love this. Our vintage only premiere launching next week. So as our live premiere auction is closing that same evening, our vintage only, which should have just over 100 cards, I believe, is going live. So that'll be really fun. Nationals getting close. It's going to be really interesting to see what this national looks and feels like. Chicago got they upped the square footage for the show floor this year. We have a massive 50 by 50 booth at the show, plus a 20 by 30. Fanatics has 3 50 by 50s next to each other. I mean, it's going to be a fun show. The Nationals always cranking. It's supposed to be a record turnout again this year. I'm super pumped to see all the people that I only get to see really once a year. Be able to shake some hands, have some drinks, have some good laughs, and have some fun.
50 by 50. You guys are moving up like the motherfucking Jeffersons over there.
Hey, it's costing us. It's not free.
You are right in that hotel room sold out quicker than I had ever seen.
Yeah. Yep. Thank God. Thank God for Natalie Flores, who is our trade show manager and booking all that stuff early. Love you, Natalie.
Make sure you follow Payne on Twitter at Payne Insider. Subscribe to Bet the Board and get notified when new episodes of CardBoard Chat air on Tuesdays. And be sure to stop by pwccmarketplace.com for all your collecting needs.